Da da da. Hey, Andy.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, where's Lindsay?
I don't know. Is she hiding somewhere?
She's definitely sleeping. Right?
Give her a call.
I'll give her a call in a little bit. No, she's not. I don't know where whatever. I don't know where she is, but it would be maybe she'll show up in the middle of the show. We got Bandrew though.
That's cool.
Hey,
Bandrew.
Hey, guess what? It's Taylor Primetime.
What time is it? What time is it? It's prime time. It's prime time. What time is it? What time is it? Prime time. It's prime time. Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guitar geeks around the internets of the worlds, welcome to Primetime. Tonight we're very excited to have Mr. Bandrew Scott with us to talk about microphones. Microphones and stuff and microphones. It's gonna be girdy and nerdy. Yeah, we don't know where Lindsay is. We hope she's well. But Jay's here. Hey, Jay.
Hi.
Welcome to Primetime.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. That was wonderful. No, Lindsay had a family engagement she had to go to. And you know what? Family comes first. That was my reply to her text message yesterday that said, oops, I can't make the show. I said, family comes first. It's the truth. Welcome to Taylor Primetime, everybody. Welcome to Taylor Primetime, Bandrew.
Thank you very much for having me. Big fan of the show. Happy to be here to talk about microphones.
Oh, this is going to be so exciting.
I'm stoked.
We're such huge fans of your channel, Podcastage. If you are not aware of Bandrew's channel, Bandrew Scott from Podcastage. Podcastage is it's a YouTube channel that provides gear reviews, right? Tests, everything. How did it start? We'll get into that real quick. We'll get into that in a little bit. But were you just you were looking for information and then you just decided I'm gonna make my own channel?
Yeah, I was back in 2014. I was starting a podcast and I was researching microphones, and I came across a bunch of mic reviews on YouTube. And for the first 10 minutes of each of these videos, they would unbox it and wouldn't speak into the microphone. And then, hey, now I'm on the microphone. Okay, bye. So I figured, hey, I have a very basic background in recording, demoing stuff with bands. So I'll go ahead and try recording stuff and uploading that and see if people get any value out of it. And then it's just snowballed from there. And now I have a serious microphone addiction, and I guess there's worse addictions to have, but we got here.
There are worse addictions. I am so excited because I'm a super mic nerd. So this is going to be great. Mom, you are going to learn everything you need to know about large diaphragm condenser microphones. So pay attention. Okay. Episode 47, Andy. We are fastly approaching 50.
Crazy.
I think we should do something special
for 50.
50. Yeah.
No, we should.
Nifty 50. I don't know. We'll think about it, but it should be pretty good. Anyway, so Bandrew, you kind of know how the show works, right?
Yes.
Here's some trivia at the end, so everybody needs to stick around. Tonight's prize is a Taylor Sense smart battery box. Stick around for that. I hope you guys are excited for that one. We do a couple of segments up early. Some people love them. Some people don't love them, but we keep doing them because they're fun. And then we're going to get into the weeds of the conversation. So it's going to be really exciting. I am super stoked on this episode. So I want to get to demoing some microphones. It's going to be exciting. Andy, we didn't really get hate this week So we have this segment. It's called Hug Your Haters.
Yeah.
Bandrew, it's when, somebody doesn't like something, so they verbalize it or they type it in a comment or something like that. We got some emails this week, but I don't want to call them hate. Here's why I don't want to call them hate, because as of late, if we have a challenging email, we will say, right, or communication, people like to say, Jay, this isn't hate. So I'm not going to read any of the hate, but I will tell you that we maybe got hate. So I'm a little bit okay with that. So it's really exciting. So Andy, maybe we should show them some love. What do you think?
Show the love. This segment was created out of the hate we got. Remember that? Since we're reminiscing and we're approaching 50 now.
Yeah.
We created a segment because we were getting lots of hate and then we didn't get any more. So we had to change it to show the love.
Yeah. So we didn't get any hate because they told me this wasn't hate. So we didn't get any hate, but we did get some communication. So let's show them the love.
Okay.
Go for it. Take it away.
PT hasn't been getting much hate of late. Maybe the haters all went away. It's okay anyway. Today we're going to Nerdsville on the microphone train. I'll be showing my love for good mics and pre's. Excited to geek out. I hope you all agree. Good guitars deserve to be heard and sound sweet in your ear, surrounded by lots of good gear.
Look at Bandrew's set real quick. It's got all of the gear. It looks like I wish I was there right now. It looks like heaven.
It's heaven, but also terrifying, because what if one of the shelves falls over?
In the middle of the show, that would be terrible. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
But great content. So hopefully it does, but at the same time, hopefully not.
Great content. So I had to go to the dentist today. So if I drool during the show, guys, don't be alarmed. Okay. I hope not to. My face is still kind of numb. I'm just letting you know.
I was going to ask you what's wrong with your face.
Well, it's killing me. You gotta say, right? What would Rich Casciato say? It's killing me, right?
Yeah, he'd have at least five dad jokes for you.
Does your face hurt? It's hurting me. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, sorry. So Bandrew, we started this new game a few weeks back, and my dogs wanted to join real quick.
Okay.
All right, now they're done. Called the draft. And what the draft is we draft things like the MLB draft or the NFL draft, right? Often music related. We don't know what the draft is until we put it up on the screen. Our social media manager puts the draft in here. So I don't know what it is. We do have this useless clip that we're going to play real quick. And then Andy's going to play a song. And then we'll kick off the draft. How's that? Check this useless clip out.
Perfect.
It's
amazing,
right? That's the title.
That was about as far from worthless as that was epic.
That was okay. It's a wonderful clip. I know I'm there with you, but we've started calling them useless clips. Andy, do you have a song?
This is a new game called the draft. Tonight we play with Bandrew. Play the draft. We don't know what we're we're drafting. We don't know why we play. We play it anyway. Something called the draft.
Oh, that was a good one, Andy. All right, let's see what tonight's draft is. Let's get right to it.
Uh-oh.
We got to get into the show. It's going to be so good.
What is it?
Tonight's draft. 3 bands. Oh, we're not doing 5. Okay. 3 bands or artists you would put on your
Oh, that's timely, huh?
Timely, Matt. Nice one. Okay. So my face is numb and now I have experience. I guess I have a tooth up on everybody. Another rich joke. All right. Man. So Bandrew, we go around one at a time. We're going around 3 times. We got to tell 3 bands that we would put on our playlist while at the dentist.
Okay. First, I'm going to pick as an artist Steve Martin, because Steve Martin was in, what's that movie where it's a big plant that eats people and he's a dentist? Isn't that Steve Martin?
Horrors.
Yeah, Little Shop of Horrors.
That was Rick Moranis.
That was Rick Moranis.
Okay. Rick Moranis then. That's my first artist for the playlist at the dentist.
That's a good one, Matt. Or Andy, go ahead.
So I'm confused by this one, or I'm challenged by this one, because I'm thinking, do I want to try to drown out the sounds of the drill on my teeth in my skull, or do I want to just like try to chill myself out by the music? And I think that I don't think either one's going to really work very well, because you're at the dentist, right?
You're at the dentist, so you're getting drilled. Like I was today.
I have when I go on long plane trips. When I used to go on long plane trips, I have this record of, it's all Debussy music.
Yeah,
it's a solo piano, and it just is like the greatest to listen to, like just to space out and kind of trip out a little bit and try not to think about anything. And so I'm going to go with my compilation of Debussy.
That's okay. I like it. All right, that's a good one. I think I'm going to go with Enya. Right?
Wow.
Because like Enya's either the worst or the greatest, depending on your mood. And I'm thinking like right now I'm getting drilled. I didn't think of this earlier, but I should have played Enya, but I didn't. But now on my next playlist at the dentist, I will. All right, Bandrew.
I will say Muse, because I want to fight back against the system of dentists who are torturing me. I need some motivational music to rise up, fight back.
I get you. Yeah.
So Muse, totally.
That's a good one. All right, Andy.
I need something. I'm thinking like of the whir of the sound of the drill, which is always super high pitched, right? So I need something sludgy and low to combat that, because I don't want any pitches that are close to the sound of the drill, because that would just be like in your ears, in your head, would just be
right
horrible, right? So I'm gonna go with like probably some early Queens of the Stone Age.
You love you know what? I would back Queens of the Stone Age, right? But what record?
What's the blue one?
R?
Is that what? Yeah,
R or something like that. Yeah.
I used to, when I was a kid, I used to know the names of records. I don't know them anymore, but that would go with the blue one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love when Hunter in the feed says Metallica, Slayer, Lamb of God. See, I don't know if I could go metal. I gotta like chill out.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna fight back, against the system right now, I'm gonna go. You know what? Let's do something fun. Like we're gonna do Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique. There you go.
Okay.
All right, Bandrew, last pick in the draft.
Okay. Since at the dentist I'm in my own personal hell, I will say Tom Waits, because Tom Waits sounds as though he is the voice of Satan, but he just sings amazing songs. So I'm going Tom Waits. Satan singing awesome songs.
Whereas Morgan Freeman is always God.
Exactly, yeah.
That's totally yes. I love it. Andy, who's your last pick?
My last pick is going to be something that's just so sweet and sugary, and cheesy that I just can't get pissed at the dentist, and that's going to be Burt Bacharach.
Oh yeah.
Any Burt Bacharach song, even if it doesn't have lyrics, even if there's nothing being sung on it, and the melody is just like burp 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 burp, which is there's a lot of really cool Burt tracks where like they're unfinished, unreleased recordings before they were given to the singers to do the demos. So they're his demos, but that's like a flugelhorn playing the melody instead of some great singer. They're just so perfect for that. Can't get pissed at the dentist listening to Burt.
No, you can't. And you know who else you can't get pissed at when you're at the dentist? Kenny G, man, with that. Like, look, it's that soprano sax, dude. Kenny G is my third draft pick for.
Depends on the keys playing in, man. I'm telling you, with that going on, I don't know.
That's so good. All right, the draft is over. Thank you. Yeah. That was fantastic, Bandrew.
That was great. And I need to point out, somebody said that I was correct. Steve Martin was the dentist in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh,
you're right. Probably.
Rick was
the guy who owned the plant.
Yeah. What was his name?
Rick was Seymour.
Feed
me, Seymour.
Feed me, Seymour.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, if Tom Waits did that.
Oh, gosh. Look out. That would be the best mashup ever.
That would be the best mashup ever. Huh. All right. On to the next segment. Before we get into the thick of this discussion, Andy.
Yep.
You know what time it is. Last week, we started a new segment called Live Lessons with Lindsay and Lund. However, Lindsay is not here, so you're going to take the live lesson this week.
Live lessons. Lovely live lessons. Lean live lessons. Learn live with Lund and Love.
Good.
Okay, so yes, last week we did the exercise that Lindsay called the spider exercise, which is the chromatic warm up. So I'm sure everybody's got that figured out. So what we're going to do tonight is something we'll just call triads on 3 strings. Okay. So quick little music theory lesson. I'm sorry for those of you who already know this stuff, but there's a lot of folks I think that don't know this. A basic chord is made out of 3 notes. It's made of the root, the third, and the fifth of any major scale. Okay. So if we talk about a D major scale, the root is D, the third is F sharp, the fifth is A. So root, third, fifth. Okay, those are the 3 notes that stack together as a triad to make a D major chord. So the first D major chord everybody learns is this guy, right? So for this lesson for today, we're just going to talk about the first 3 strings, the E, the B, and the G. So just those 3 notes together, you've got the A on the bottom, the D in the middle, and the F sharp on top. So the lesson is move this A up further till you find one of those 3 notes. Remember, we're looking for either an A, a D, or an F sharp. So here's an A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, a D. And just coincidentally, the F sharp is right next to it there, and the A is there. So this is a different inversion of the same chord. Here's your A, D, F sharp. Here is D, F sharp, A. And then do the same thing. Go up further. Where can you find one of those 3 notes on the 3rd string? Here's E flat, E, F, F sharp. Next to it, it's an A. Next to that is a D. Oh, sorry, the microphone's in the way. Big old RE20. So there's your inversion. So A, D, F sharp, D, F sharp, A, F sharp, A, D. All the same chord. So when you're playing a tune in D, any of that stuff will work. And of course, it repeats itself when you get above the octave, right? So these are all D chords. Next, do the same thing for an A chord on the next 3 strings. So, of course, this is the first chord that everybody learns, right? That chord also exists here, here, and here. So this is just a little bit of a basic lesson on how you can take a chord and move it around. And you can come up with some little exercises of your own to help you reinforce these positions. Like, let's see here. So those are all D chords. Here's A. So just kind of a cool thing. And then, of course, the only difference between a major chord and a minor chord is that you change one note. In the case of D, you change the F sharp to an F. So you change the major triad to minor. And those same shapes exist all the way up the fingerboard as well. So once you kind of can master those shapes, find them really quickly, it'll just give you some ideas, I think, for especially when you're playing with other guitar players. If you have a little bit of an idea, if somebody's playing first position D, why not play some in a different position on the guitar? Because your overall combined sound will be more interesting. There you go, Jay.
That was great, Andy. What does everybody think about that segment? I think we got some love there. I don't think we're going to get any hate on that segment.
It's hard, I think what we need to do with this is keep it like in the middle of everybody, because some people already know that stuff, some people don't. I remember I was playing guitar for a long time before I figured that out, or somebody showed me, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, just to know that, and it really helps you to get around fast, get up and down the fingerboard.
It's really interesting. I was thinking this too, but Z had a good idea. We should have somebody on, like, from once in a while, have somebody on just for a little bit of a segment, a lesson segment, like Tony Policastro. We can have him back and we can have him on, or we could have Nicholas or Carrie Too Smooth on, or Sean Daniels, or we can bring in some people. That would be fantastic.
Yeah,
I love it. Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Bandrew,
what's up?
You know what time it is, right?
I think I do.
Oh, I'm so
it's
excited.
Microphone time, isn't it?
It's microphone time. But as you know, I ask a question to every single guest that's on the show. Time out. I got to go back to the feed real quick because I got a question. I'm wearing a Mets hat because Mets ace Jacob deGrom randomly texted me this week and then ended up buying an 811. The guitar that you were playing right there, Andy, tonight was a GT 811E. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a fantastic guitar. That's all I got to say. That's why I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it for my bud Jake. And then he went out and smoked the Padres. So,
hey Jay.
Yeah.
I'm up in the Northwoods.
Yeah.
And I went to my first time. I went to an open mic last night. I played the 811E. It's the first time I played in front of a live audience in 16 months or something like that, right?
How did that guitar
sounded awesome. It sounded great. I love the sound of the guitar. I got lots of compliments on it, and it was weird to be live again. I mean, other than Primetime, which I guess we're always live. But
yeah, but it's not the same. There's people breathing the same air. Did you mess up?
A little bit, not a lot. I got through it.
You didn't mess up. You're Andy Lund. Did you play all the Primetime songs? Did you get requests for
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
All right, let's get into the show real quick. So, Bandrew, you know the deal. I ask a question to every single guest who's on the show, and that question is, Bandrew Scott, what in the heck do you do?
I have no idea. I don't know what I do. I yell into microphones and stare into cameras, and then during the day I put numbers in Excel, but we don't talk about that. I'm a crazy person on the internet, really, is what it comes down to. And
So,
hopefully some people get something out of it.
so we started to touch on this early in the show, but Mom, while you're watching, I'll send you the link to Bandrew's channel. It's so great. All he does is review equipment, like musical gear. It's mainly microphones. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, you'll love it. I promise. So, Bandrew, what made you? So go back. You were starting a podcast. Does that mean you have a podcast now?
It does. Yeah, I run a podcast where I analyze news that affects content creators and try to deconstruct it in a way that's not hyperbolic. It's not fear-inducing, because sometimes you run into folks who will try to scare content creators or make them buy a course to solve this problem that's not really a problem. So I just look at what's going on and say, well, I think this may affect you in this way. Here's what you can do to mitigate those risks, and hopefully it helps out. So that's what I do, and that's called the Bandrew Says podcast.
The Bandrew Says podcast. And how long have you been doing that?
That one has been live since 2016. So I'm up at episode 262.
Wow.
261, somewhere around there. So
We got to catch up.
Yeah, we got work to do.
We got work to do. But okay,
you're going to get there.
we'll get there.
This show has legs.
The show has legs, but it really has legs because of Andy's music, and then guests like you, and then of course Lindsay.
Well, and Andy's legs.
And Andy's legs.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's on the bottom right now, so I guess he's holding us up. You're right. All right.
exactly.
So, you know what's really exciting? We're gonna the topic tonight is really, we're gonna talk about 5 great microphones, right? General recording. All right. Of course, acoustic guitar goes in there, voice goes in there, etc. So, I don't know how you did it. I just asked you to pick 5 mics and to talk about them.
Yeah.
And when we were in pre-production tonight, Bandrew said, hey, I'm set up to do demos of all these microphones. So I think it would be a wonderful idea, and I bet the feed would love this too. Bandrew, let us give you the keys to this to this live show, Taylor Primetime, and let you go for it. Do what you do best. Give us 5 microphones that you love.
Now, I might need you to come in because I'll have to change out microphones, so you might have to entertain while I do that. But
no, we'll just sit there quietly and look at you.
just make it awkward. Perfect. So it's like real life for me. Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. So I guess let me turn on the first microphone, and we will discuss that. So let me go ahead and that. And the first microphone that we have, this is the Luit LCT 240 Pro. Now, this isn't technically a large diaphragm condenser. If I remember correctly, the capsule is 17 millimeters, so it's a medium diaphragm condenser. But the reason that I selected these 5 is I wanted to have a gradient. So the Luit starts at $150. Then we have a couple of doublings of price. So there's going to be a range of prices that we can go from, and hopefully a difference in tone to meet whatever needs that you have. So I'll go ahead and play something on the LCT 240 Pro very quickly for you. So the character of this Luit, I will admit it's not one of my favorites, but this is a very More gain on the mic. Okay, you got it.
Yeah, it was just a little. It was just a little bit quieter than your vocal mic.
Okay, let me go ahead and I will throw on a limiter. How about that?
There you go.
Okay. So, do you want me to play on the guitar again, or
No, we're fine.
we're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is much more of a modern, very bright sounding guitar, not too dominant in the low end. So, if you're looking for a big, beefy sounding acoustic, it's not going to be a good choice for you. But as far as the character, it's modern, it's exciting. And I wanted to include at least one microphone like that because it's typically not something that I lean towards. I like more subdued and neutral sounding microphones, but I wanted to include a diverse selection. So that is the first one, the Luit LCT 240 Pro, $150, and this has just a cardioid polar pattern, so it just picks up audio in the front. It has a self noise of 19 dBA, and unless you're playing extremely quietly and miking up the guitar from a couple meters away, really not going to run into any issues with that. But there you go. That's the first mic. Let me go ahead and switch out to the second one, and we'll talk about that.
Do you just have them all on mic stands just ready?
Not
Andy,
quite.
that would be great. We need to get you that set up. Look at this.
That's pretty cool. That's quick. It's impressive.
Quick release.
Yep.
Okay. Now we are on one of my all-time favorite microphones. This is the Rode NT1. If you watch my channel, you know I rave about this thing. I won't shut up about it. And this costs $230 to $270. This is another cardioid-only microphone, so it picks up audio just in front. This is one of the quietest microphones out there in terms of noise generated by the internals. It only generates 4.5 decibels A-weighted of noise, so it's incredibly quiet. You won't ever run into any issues with the microphone making your recording sound too hissy. So it's a really big benefit, and this is much more of a neutral sound. So let me go ahead and play something really quick for you. So as you could hear, it doesn't have as aggressive or as a detailed sound as the Luit. Doesn't give you that. It's much more of a almost boring sound. But in many cases, I think more of a boring sound could be beneficial because it gives you a little bit more wiggle room in post to mix to the actual mix that you're putting the guitar in. If you need to remove some of the bass, no problem. If you need to boost up the top end, no problem. It has very little character to it. But on the voice, it can get a little bit sibilant. If you don't know what sibilance is, that's the s. When the S's start to get a little sharp, a little bit piercing. This microphone does tend to have a little bit of that. But at $250, $270, if you are just looking for a great all-rounder, I honestly don't think you can go wrong with this. This works on pretty much everything you can throw in front of it, and it's not going to damage the sound that you're recording. It's not going to add too much character. It's not going to be too out of control. Just all around very balanced, and it's one of my favorites for a reason. So there you go. Second microphone, Rode NT1.
What about?
Go ahead?
We're getting some questions about like an NT1A. I actually have an NT1A right here.
Okay.
Are you a fan of that microphone?
It's a fine microphone, but between the NT1 and the NT1A, the NT1A is a bit brighter in the top end. So it really comes down to personal preference there. If you want a brighter top end, if you want more attack on the strings, that really crystal clear chiminess, you may want to go with the NT1A. I just personally have a preference towards flatter, more neutral sounding microphones. So both are great. Both are very quiet in terms of self-noise. It's just whether or not you want flatter top end, a little bit more boring, or a more exciting, brighter top end.
A little bit more boring. I love that.
Yeah.
Andy, do you have any Rode mics?
I have a Rode mic that I have not had out for a long time, and I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's one of the ones that you guys are talking about. I do have a nice mic collection as well, so this is fun for me to listen to this.
I know, microphones are the greatest.
Yeah.
Now what do you have?
All right. I think I need a little bit more gain on this one. This is the Shure KSM32.
Yeah.
This is another cardioid-only condenser microphone, and I think this is also not technically a large diaphragm condenser, but it's getting up there. This one has a built-in high-pass filter and a pad. If I didn't mention, this costs $500. Did I mention that? $500. And the self-noise on this, 13 dBA. And this thing can handle SPLs up to 154 dB. So you're never going to run into any issues with a sound source being too loud for this. But the reason I picked this is, of all the mics I've tested, this has one of the softest, one of the sweetest top ends. It doesn't sound overly dark, like a ribbon might. It just has this smoothness to the top end that is very rare on condenser microphones without losing the detail. Now, because of that, it's not going to sound super articulate, but it is just a wonderful sounding microphone. So let me go ahead and play the guitar through it so you can hear how that sounds.
This is so awesome. I could do this all day.
Can I back up this conversation just a little bit?
No.
Please.
Why did you choose to show us large diaphragm microphones?
We just had to start somewhere. And small diaphragm condensers are typically what people use on acoustic instruments. I have not tested a sufficient number of them to feel comfortable creating a top 5 list.
Cool.
I want to do my due diligence and not just go pull off some list online. I want to pull from my personal experience. So maybe in a year, once I've gone through a dozen or 25 or 50 small diaphragm condensers, then I can provide you with a list of the top 5, in my opinion.
Cool. Love it.
And to answer a question, all of these microphones are phantom powered because they are all condenser microphones. So all of them will require you to run phantom power. Okay, that is the third microphone, the Shure KSM32, $500. Let me go ahead and switch to the fourth mic.
I have a couple of those KSMs, Jay. I think I have is there a 34 also, a KSM 34? Mine's silver, I think. It's not a black color, but
Gabriel.
I think there's a 44 also. There's
definitely a 44. We have one. This is a good time to ask Gabriel in the feed, what happens when you face the rejection side of the microphone towards your mouth and you're trying to sing? That's an inside joke. It's happened.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens from time to time. It's okay.
Quite frequently, actually.
Actually, it does. And speaking of large diaphragms, so on our website, taylorguitars.com, all the videos that Michael Lilly plays, right, in the compare video tool that we have, we use a Neumann TLM 193. So it is a large, right? In all, it's just, some of us like large diaphragms on acoustics and some people don't. I particularly like that Neumann on acoustic guitars, so it's good. All right, what do we got, Bandrew?
Now we have, I think we need a bit more gain on this. This is a microphone that kind of blew my mind last year or 2 years ago. This is the Austrian Audio OC818, and this is a company that was founded after AKG was purchased by Samsung, and they were dumb enough to shut down the Austrian factory for AKG. So all of the engineers from AKG started Austrian Audio. And this is kind of their take on the C414, which is another hugely popular studio workhorse microphone. It has multiple polar patterns. It has figure 8, supercardioid, cardioid, and omni. But there is a really big selling point for this microphone. It has 2 capsules, which all, at least microphones like the 414 have. But this has a second XLR output, so you can output both of the capsules, record them simultaneously into your DAW, and then you can actually mix the polar patterns in post-production. And you can even have different polar patterns based on a frequency range. So if you want an omnidirectional polar pattern in the low end to avoid any kind of overwhelming proximity effect, you can do that, and then have a supercardioid polar pattern above that. It's absolutely bonkers what they did. And they also have a Bluetooth dongle, so you can have this set up as room mics in your studio. But as far as the sound, this one just blew me away because it's so balanced, it's so even sounding, and it's so smooth, but also it's just so versatile. It's a little bit smoother than the 414 XLS, which is why I personally selected it. But it will come down to personal preference, whichever one you prefer. If you want the more detailed, a little bit less smooth, a little bit harsher, but a little bit more detailed sound of the AKG. All right, let's go ahead and put the guitar through this.
It's so nerdy, it's great. Little riff right there.
Totally. That's the extent of my shredding.
So let's break it down. Let's back up just a little for those
please.
who might not know in the feed. Okay, you talk about patterns. You said cardioid. You said, can you run us through all of the mic patterns and kind of break that down so that folks who may not know can understand what that means?
Absolutely. I will actually demonstrate it for you because I think that's the best way for you to actually learn it. So cardioid, it's shaped like a heart. That's why it's cardioid. I joke and say it looks like a butt. It means it's most sensitive in the front of the microphone. As I go around to the rear, you shouldn't really hear much of my voice. So you can use that to your benefit. If you have a loud sound source in one direction, point the rear of the microphone towards that and pick up what's in front of it. What else do we have? This is the supercardioid or hypercardioid. This will be a little bit narrower, so the sides will reject a little bit more, but you're giving up a little bit of the rejection in the rear. So now you can hear more of my voice from the rear. So this would be more of a polar pattern you want to use if you have noise coming in from the sides. You can get a little bit better rejection from here. You also have figure 8. This means it picks up audio evenly on the front and the rear, and then the sides are completely dead. This is what you would want to use if you had two people sitting at a desk interviewing one another, or if you have people singing on both sides of the microphone, or if you have a great sounding room and you want to record the guitar and capture the actual reverb of the room as much as possible. And lastly, let's go over to omnidirectional. And this means it picks up audio all the way around the microphone. So as I move around, there shouldn't be too much change in terms of the level or the tone. And this would be, I think a lot of people use this for room miking because you want to capture as much of the room as possible. So that's a basic rundown of the main polar patterns on here. Hopefully that gives a little bit of context.
Totally.
That's great. Good demonstration.
Great demonstration.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and switch to the last mic.
Andy, what's your favorite microphone that you have in your arsenal?
I have a U87 that I love.
Absolutely. Neumann U87. Such a wonderful microphone. You got it, Ken.
Took me a long time to be able to get one of those. So, I mean,
on the note, yes, Gabriel says on omnidirectional, less proximity effect, no proximity effect to be exact. Yeah, if you want to avoid any kind of, if somebody doesn't know what the proximity effect is, as you get closer to a microphone that is directional, it will get bassier. The low end will get more prominent. So if you want to avoid that, omnidirectional. Last microphone on the note of Andy's favorite mic, Neumann U87 AI. If you want one microphone just to buy it and never have to worry about anything, here you go. You will be paying for it though, unfortunately. This costs $3,200 to $3,600. It is an investment, but if you want the U87 sound, it sounds so unique. It is. There's nothing that sounds like this. It doesn't sound like anything else. It sounds like a U87. I know that's a cop-out, but it is what it is. This is a multi-pattern microphone as well, so you have that cardioid polar pattern, which is what I typically use to record because I don't have a great sounding room. I don't have a proper studio that was acoustically designed to sound good, so I want to reject reflections from the rear of the mic. It does have an omni and a figure 8 polar pattern as well. This is a little bit less capable in terms of max SPL. It maxes out at 127 dB, so if you have really, really loud sound sources, you may run into some issues there, but it's the U87 AI. Mm-hmm. People love it because it sounds like the U87 AI. So let me go ahead and play it. You will hear a little bit more of a mid-forwardy sound and upper mids that are forward, and the top end is very smooth still. Just a great sounding mic. So let me go ahead and play into this one now. And there you go. That is my 5th pick. I'm right there with Andy. This is one of my favorites. I did go a little bit overboard, and last year I bought the U67 reissue, which is the predecessor of this, but it's twice as expensive, and it's a tube mic. and it gives you a little bit softer top end. It's not as boosted. It's not as mid-forward sounding. So for my personal preference, U67 would be my all-time favorite. But if you want more reliability, you don't want to have to worry about tubes, then the U87 is the way to go. Maybe just get the U87 in a tube preamp, and you can get somewhere close to the 67.
Really present and clear sounding mics, the U87.
Absolutely. As far as an all-rounder, especially if you're doing voiceover, this is probably one of the most used voiceover microphones. If you ever watch behind the scenes for ADR, for animated movies, anything like that, you will see the U87 hanging above them, just pointed right down above the music stand with their script. This is used all over the place for VO, so it's great for that as well. Great for singing. You've heard it on thousands of records, on everything.
So the U87 is your top pick. You're going to have
in this list, yeah.
In this list. Now, how many microphones have you? How many mics do you have in your arsenal?
Currently, probably around 300. I think I've said 300 in the past, and then I went and cataloged everything and put barcodes on it, and I think now I'm around 300 microphones.
Wow.
Yeah. I made a terrible decision of deciding to buy everything that I review so that I have it on file so I can pull them out, and when I'm reviewing the U87, I can pull out the TLM 103, I can pull out the Luit, I can pull out the NT1, and include very quick comparisons in there. Because although I think standalone mic reviews and audio samples are great, it's not as helpful because it's in a vacuum. If you can provide some context for the microphone, I think that makes the reviews, the samples, whatever it may be, that much more valuable, because maybe I compare the NT1 to the U87. If somebody has the NT1, now they have a point of reference. So including samples like that, that's why I was dumb enough to do that.
But you have the arsenal. And are you going to you could record the greatest record of all time, kind of.
Well, minus the fact that I don't have the skills to do it. I have the gear to do it, but as far as the audio engineering skills, the musical skills, the performance skills, I don't have that. So I think the most important aspects of recording the greatest album ever are kind of lost. But if one of the greatest engineers and musicians wants to come to my home and do that, by all means.
This was exciting, Andy. We need to do more of this super nerdy stuff like this. Yeah. It's super exciting. I think you got some questions in the feed. So let's go into some Q&A. Let's get some people asking some questions out there. And some Craig actually had a really good comment. Look, he's putting his guitar away. Craig's comment: to my ears, the first two mics had harshness across the frequency range. The last three were much smoother and sounded better. Why was that?
If I knew, I would be a billionaire. I think it really comes down to the capsule that is being used and the tuning of the capsule. I'm still learning what all of the different components within a capsule do, but they have to drill certain tiny holes at certain depths to cancel out resonances of the membrane in the capsule. And some more affordable microphones aren't going to do that as well. So you'll end up with these peaks that are less smooth and less appealing, a little bit sharp sounding. So once you get to higher end stuff, they will first off do a bit more in terms of R&D. And then secondly, they will have much more stringent Q&A. So they won't let faulty units go out. They will have tighter tolerances. So from microphone to microphone, they'll be a bit more consistent and reliable. A good anecdote, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but people say that when you buy a U87, you're not buying the U87, you're buying the U87 and all of the U87s they threw away because they didn't meet their standards. So it really comes down to the R&D, the capabilities of what you can do for a specific price point, and the consistency, the Q&A, all of that. So that would be my take on it.
All right, we got a direct microphone question. Ken wants to know, what are your thoughts on an AKG P220?
P220.
Yep.
So I am not the biggest fan of AKG's entry-level stuff. I think they are a bit harsh, but at the same time, like I pointed out, I think the Luit LCT 240 is a little bit harsh. But it's exciting. It's a different sound profile than the other mics that I recommended, so that's why I included it. It's fine. Most of these microphones, honestly, they will be fine. Something that I remind people of, the majority of our listeners do not care. As long as your audio isn't distracting, as long as it is not painful to listen to, people could not care less what microphone you're using, whether it's a Behringer XM8500, which costs $20, or a U87. As long as the performance is great, as long as you don't make it painful to listen to, then people won't care. The actual performance is the most important aspect. And I know that's a bit of a cop-out because you're asking a specific gear question. But I think if you have listened to samples of the P220 and you like the sound of it, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, and there's the other yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said too, and we're actually lucky to live in the age we are because the microphones you can buy for $200, $300, $500 right now are pretty darn good and much better than what you could have bought 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other side of that too is that some of this stuff takes you could hear this stuff better if you were recording it straight to your DAW in your studio, and going over StreamYard, who knows really what's getting crushed here and there, right?
Right.
So, but it's also, there's a learning curve that comes into it as well, because sometimes you can be fooled because you think that when you hear what that comment said, harshness, it could excite you actually, it can trick you because you can think, wow, I can hear the high end is detailed and I can hear it more than in the last microphone, whereas that 87, like, that's a lot more smooth. You said boring before, but it's a lot more rounded off.
Yeah.
And when you put a bunch of sources together that are all recorded on that same microphone, they just sit together really well, right? And there's also the thing about like the Luit microphone. Like if you had a nylon string guitar, that microphone might sound really good on it because the nylon string's a little bit darker sounding. You wouldn't want to put that Luit on a ride cymbal or a crash cymbal, right? But on a darker sounding instrument, or it might do a really good job.
Yeah, I think that's my opinion too, Andy, is that there are so many microphones out there and like you can't leave them behind, right? Yeah. There are great microphones for certain things. That's why when you're recording, when you have a studio, you have a cabinet full of microphones. To quote Gabriel, our trusty producer who's on vacation right now and still joining the show and hanging out in the feed. Thank you for that, Gabriel. You should be playing with your kids and hanging out with your family, but we appreciate you. He said, we talk about this all the time, and sometimes you can take $100 microphone and it's where you put it, right? That's going to get the sound that you want, right? Yep. So we were in the studio last week. We're filming all of these guitars for our website, and we're in a studio, and the studio had this mic closet that was insane. And so at one point there were 4, 5, 6, 7 microphones on one guitar because we wanted to see the combo that we wanted to use. And we ended up using, a Neumann small diaphragm and Earthworks, actually.
Earthworks is incredible.
I want to say ACT40. Is that right? I can't remember.
I
Anyway,
don't know about I'm not too familiar with the small diaphragms that look like measurement mics. I haven't even gone down that realm yet.
oh, when you do, you'll be excited. It's really fun. I love it. Microphones are great. Let's get back to some questions. Here's one that's not a mic question, but I love it. And that is, what are your thoughts about plugging in Taylor guitars direct into audio interfaces? Andy, you go.
There's definitely things that you can get out of that will be musically pleasing. And a short answer to that is that a lot of engineers will take a DI out of a guitar to get low end and use it in the end. So there are two sources. Let's say that the guitar is plugged right into the DAW, and then there's also a microphone in front of it. And then you can blend those two. To my ear, what it'll sound like is that it's going to be a little bit brittle and not as warm and pleasing as what a microphone captures. However, the low end is really tight and easy to control. And sometimes, you can roll off the response of the microphone to not take as much low end. If you want to use the low end from the pickup and then do the opposite with the pickup, you can roll off the high end so that the microphone picks up more of that. That's a really common way to use the two sources and to capture one cool sound, to blend them.
Great. I have a question here that's good. What do you suggest? Lark says, what do you suggest for a harmonica?
So I am of the firm belief that I don't speak out of turn. I have never recorded a harmonica. I don't know what is required for that. I don't know what characteristics would make for a good harmonica mic. I think there are some microphones that are specifically designed for harmonica. So I would say probably one of those, but that's as far as I can even venture.
A dynamic microphone, not a condenser microphone.
Not a condenser.
Was a Shure green bullet. It's the one that you see that looks like it's sort of like a bullet, and you can hold it right in your hand. That's a real common one. A lot of those microphones, they utilize that proximity effect to make a harmonica sound like what we're used to hearing on records, because it's right up against the back of the harp. So harmonica doesn't have a lot of low end anyway, but if you put it any further away, unless you're trying to get room sound, it would sound pretty thin, I think. So all the harp players I've had have usually had some sort of a handheld microphone.
Yeah, if I continue to drool on my microphone, it's gonna ruin this thing. But
you can't ruin the 7B.
No, you can't. But
drool away.
I'm getting through this thing. I'm still totally numb on this side. It's fine. I'm getting through it. I put in the effort. Let's get back to some questions. There was a question up here. I might have lost it, but if you're making a record, would you pull the ribbons? What would you pull the ribbons out for?
Try it on everything. So I recently got the AEA KU5A, their super cardioid ribbon. I loved it on the electric. I loved it on the acoustic. I loved it for singing. I loved it for spoken word. So you don't know. I mean, you may go in thinking, I need a super bright condenser sound. Try throwing on a ribbon. See what it sounds. That's the beauty of recording, especially in the digital age. You don't have limited tape. You can record. You can experiment. If you have the microphone and you're not going out, excuse me, and buying it, why not take it out and take 5 minutes and give it a shot?
Yeah.
You may find an amazing sound that you hadn't considered would work.
It's really the way to learn too, right? I mean, if you like, I was just thinking before this afternoon about this show, and lots of times when I work, it's by myself, I'm recording my guitar, I'm recording my vocal. I don't have the luxury of sitting on the other side of a wall away from the performance, because I'm hearing everything in my head and in my body. It's really hard to sometimes to hear what you're getting until you listen to playback, because then it's not emanating from inside of you, right? But I did that I have several ribbons too. And I was thinking about, I recorded the Rosewood version of the guitar that you have with an 87 and a Royer 121, which is a microphone, just because I didn't know. And also, if you're building a track, a lot of us don't know until the end of it, because then all of a sudden, once you add a percussion on it, or you add other vocalists, then the things change. So when you, like you said, data is cheap. Why not throw up a couple of microphones and A/B them later, or use a little bit, 60% of one, 40% of the other, 60 and 30 and 10 of the room. Or that's a fun part of it, of the process to me.
Absolutely.
Making things magical with what you have, using reflective surfaces to capture things, or
dead
things, or empty kick drum shells. And I worked with a producer once who was wanted to get a real shotgun effect out of the kick drum. So he ran 4 or 5, maybe 6, 7, 8. I mean, it was like a kick drum that looked like it was going all the way across the room. And he dropped microphones in between at each drum. So it got that extra little shotgun. It was really cool. Or, there's the story, maybe I've told it before, Andy, but when I lived in Los Angeles, I was in the studio with a band, and I was guitar teching, and they wanted to capture, what would be awesome? If we could get that guitar solo in the middle of Madison Square Garden when it was empty. And basically, they're looking for this reverby kind of middle. It's a round venue. They want to sit there and kind of play and just wail, right? And of course, I put probably a baseball cap on, because that's what I do. We'll call it my thinking cap, for about 15 minutes. And then I said, I'll be right back. Well, that be right back took 2 hours because it was Los Angeles. And I drove like 5 minutes away in normal city time to the Home Depot, and I bought a Weber grill. And then I stopped at the either the Sam Ash or the Guitar Center. I can't remember which one, right across the street from each other in Hollywood. Ran in, grabbed an Electra Voice Raven. You remember that, Mike? And then I took it back to the studio, and I had a little Smoky amp. Do you remember the Smoky? It's a little cigarette pack. Had an input and an output and a little speaker in it. And we put it in there and put the guitar in and put the mic right in front of that and shut the Weber grill. And what do you know?
That's amazing.
It sounded like they were soloing at Madison Square Garden. So the cool thing about microphones is you can just get crazy. This is why I could talk about this forever. Any more questions out there? Probably. Let me get to them.
There's a really good one from Hunter. Yeah.
Hunter, my man, says, what is the best bang for the buck? Flexible. Yeah, what is that? That is a great question.
Yep.
SM57. $100. Throw it in front of anything and everything, and then hammer nails with it, and it'll still work. Every single studio needs one.
Every single studio needs 15.
Yeah. Fair point.
Yeah, that's the first microphone that anybody should buy, because you can use it live to sing through. You can mic up your guitar cabinets. You can use it on a snare drum. It works really well.
When we started the Taylor Guitars from the Factory podcast, we didn't have any SM7s yet, so I had a bunch of 57s, and we just put pop filters in front of them and started a podcast.
Yeah.
What a great mic. Any other questions? Ribbon mics can't handle high SPL.
Yes, they can these days. The old vintage ones can't. You got to be a little bit careful with those, but lots of, like the one I'm talking about, the Royers, those are great. They can put them right on the front of guitar cabinets. Maybe not snare drums, but you probably want a little more crack on the snare drum than you would get out of a ribbon anyway.
Talk about gain and compression, please. Okay. We'll do one little segment here talking about gain and compression real quick. And then we'll move on to some useless questions, and we'll wrap up the show. Who wants to talk about gain and compression?
Okay, as far as gain, I don't necessarily know how to approach it. I would say when I try to record, I'm shooting for -18 to -12 dB because I want to leave myself enough headroom. So if I get excited and start screaming, or if I start playing the guitar a lot louder, the microphone or the signal doesn't get so hot that it distorts my A to D converter, my analog to digital converter. And that will, once you clip at the A to D converter, it sounds distorted, it sounds disgusting, it's worthless. So as far as setting your gain, there's no rule. There's no saying, if you have the U87, set the gain to 1 o'clock. That's not a thing. It's going to be depending on how loud the sound source is, how far the mic is away from you, and how powerful the preamp is. But as a rule of thumb for me, I shoot for -18 to -12 dB on my meters before I do any processing, but because that gives me sufficient headroom. Any other thoughts on gain? Or
I agree with you. If you're recording in an analog world, it's different than in a digital world, right? Clipping in an analog world is cool, and you can drive your preamps to kind of achieve that kind of a sound. But once you surpass 0 in a digital format, it's not going to be pleasing at all. It's going to just ruin your recording because it's just going to sound like a click or a pop, and then nothing musical comes out of it. You can always gain it up. You can always, once you've recorded it, even if it's a little low, when you come time to mix it, it's not a problem to gain it up or get it to fit in the mix as well. But if you go overboard, you can't pull it back once it's tracked.
yeah,
I worked on a recording project with and had Gabriel O'Brien, my pal, mix it, and it was recording this church band. And one of the channels in the recording device, we used a QSC recording device, and it just had a bad channel in it. It was super hot. And Gabriel went in there like a doctor and fixed all of that peaking. It was like so red that it would hurt anybody's ears, and he was able to fix it. So yes, when it's lower, you can bring it up, but when it's peaking and it's crushed, you can't often fix it.
One other thing I'd like to just say, since we're on this subject right now, Jay, is that I think it's really important for people to get used to tracking things dry.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it's cool to have reverb and effects and echo and stuff like that. However, if you track it with that stuff, you better be sure that you like what it is, because you can't pull that stuff off. And you can always set up your DAW so that you're tracking, so that you can hear reverb as a return, but it's not getting printed. In other words, you're just hearing it to make it sound smoother, so that your performance can be maybe a little bit more relaxed, but it doesn't get printed. Figure out how to do that, because once a lot of the DAW setups, a lot of the programs, they come with these templates, where it's like male vocal sound number 1, and it's got like 6 plugins attached to it, and it sounds cool when you put your headphones on, right? But man, most of the time you're gonna want to get rid of that by the time you're done with the song. I find.
We got a couple of questions in here, and then we'll move on. But this one, Rob had this question out here. Going to ask again. What is the best pattern for recording vocals and guitar at the same time on 2 different tracks? Voice on one track, guitar on the other.
so that I would probably say 2 cardioid microphones, or maybe, depending on the room, maybe a super cardioid or hypercardioid, or maybe even a figure 8. Because as far as null areas or dead areas, I've found with microphones figure 8, the sides are the deadest of any of the polar patterns. So if you have a dead spot behind the microphones, then maybe use a figure 8 and place the null area pointed at the guitar, and vice versa. That may be a good option, or just cardioid. And I did just watch I can't remember what the conclusion was, but it was a video by Josh Turner, I believe. and he's a guitar player on YouTube, and he made a video about doing exactly that. And I think he had an interesting miking technique where he had the vocal mic, and then he had a mic over the shoulder for the guitar. Pretty interesting technique, but go check out Josh Turner Guitar. He did a good video about that, but maybe Andy or Jay have some other insight.
That's a good answer. The same thing, the figure 8, if you put the microphone on its side like this, and especially you can get it, sometimes you can see footage of people in studios when they're doing just that same thing, guitar and vocal. And when you have the figure 8 like this, you're getting rejection towards the guitar, and this way as well. And then your other guitar is probably just, or your other microphone is probably just cardioid pattern in front of the sound hole or somewhere down around the sound hole.
Here's a good question. It has to do with the accessories. Hunter with a question: how important are cables for your microphone? Budget or get the good stuff?
Okay.
I would say from a tech side, regardless of what you get, take care of it. Don't knot it up, wind it. I am a freak when it comes to our studio at Taylor about who touches the cables. Truth, right? If they're just kind of balled up, nope, get out of here. I'll take care of it. It's really important. I always lean towards a little bit better stuff, because often if you've tested, you can hear some patterns of what stuff is noisier than other stuff. So I'll let Bandrew go with that one, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, so I did a test of this, and as far as tonality, I don't think there's a huge noticeable difference. And I tested from an Amazon Basics cable up to a Mogami Gold, so from $8 to $50 for a 10-footer. Now, where the differences start to come in is the build quality, the durability of it. The Mogami is going to be much longer lasting, and where it's really noticeable is the shielding. So if you're recording in an environment that you don't know, if you don't know if there's going to be radio frequency interference or electromagnetic interference that gets into the cable and starts buzzing, if you don't know if that's going to be there, you may want to go with the higher quality cables that have better, what's the term that I'm thinking of? Better shielding. Because once that's in the recording, you're doomed. You can't get out the radio being recorded into your microphone. So if that's a concern, go with the Mogami, and also, or not the Mogami, just a higher end cable. And another thing to consider is the connectors on the XLR cables. I have heard a number of horror stories where somebody has a very nice microphone or a nice piece of outboard gear. They use a cheap microphone with a cheap connector, and the connector got stuck in their gear. They had to ship it back to the manufacturer to get it fixed or something like that. So don't just think of the sound, don't just think of the shielding, think of what you're plugging the cable into. Do you want to trust a 50-cent connector, or do you want to splurge and get a $3 connector because you're connecting it to a $3,000 microphone?
Yep. Don't know. I don't know how to answer that one.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Can't hear you, Jay.
Jay is muted.
Was I muted? I was going
Yes.
off forever and I wasn't.
Yeah, we was like only about 5 minutes or so.
Like 15 minutes. That's good. I don't know why it muted. Gabriel muted me. We'll blame Gabe. He's not here. We'll blame him. Lindsay muted me. Anyway, so often gold is a plating, right? At the end of the day, it's paint to make it look better. And this was when I worked at Ash, Andy, the Monster Cables rep came in and told me he was about to get fired. He's like, I'm about to get fired, so I'm going to tell you the truth. He goes, don't use these things. All they're doing is ruining your input jacks.
Yeah.
I
That was
said,
a real thing for a while. There was a tolerance thing about that. It was ruining it. It's exactly what you just said, Andrew, about they were fatter. The the barrels of the 1/4-inch jacks were fatter than a standard, and they thought it was cool. I mean, maybe they touted it because it felt like it was a solid connection, but it was ruining input jacks all around the world. And you'd pull it out of a guitar, and the whole thing would like come out of the bottom of your Les Paul or something like that. You know?
Yeah. So I avoid them at all costs. All right. I think it's time to move on. Shielding rattlesnake cables. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful episode. Bandrew, you're the best, man. This is so good. We have a couple of useless questions I want to run through. Then we will go through and ask Lindsay's question. Andy, she texted it to me, so we can ask him. You're not off. You're off the hook, dude.
Okay.
All right. So useless questions from Jay. These are rapid fire questions. Bandrew, what's your favorite color?
Black.
No.
I'm colorblind, so black or gray or something. I don't know.
Okay, that works. What's your favorite band or artist?
Descendants, because y'all are in California. It's between two. Descendants. Totally.
Stefan, are you friends? I'll introduce you. He plays a 717. You play a 517.
No
All right.
kidding.
Yeah. What's your favorite song?
That one's impossible to answer. I'll go The Queen of the Night aria by Mozart. Yeah.
Wow. How would you have mic'd that? Never mind.
I have no idea. I'll leave.
What is the best live show you've ever seen?
Probably Descendants or Muse.
They're both so wonderful live.
Yeah.
Would you watch the Descendants do an acoustic set that's never been done before?
Absolutely, I would. 1,000,000%. I would watch anything the Descendants do. Though.
All right, you and I are friends. We're big friends now because I love that band. Okay, and is there a song that you wished you had written?
Oh gosh.
That one's hard too, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll say, just for monetary reasons, what's my age again? Because I just think they made a bunch of money on that. Let's go with that one. Think of all the mics you could buy with that much money.
Think of all the mics you could buy with all that money.
All the what's my age again money.
All the Blink-182 what's my age again money. That is fantastic.
Yeah. Hey Jay. So yeah. I didn't know that Lindsay was going to show up, so I had a really good question that I wanted to ask him.
You should ask him.
It'll substitute for Lindsay's question. Can I go ahead and do that?
You do it.
Okay, Bandrew. If you could be any instrument or any piece of gear, what instrument or piece of gear would you be?
Upright bass. Upright bass all the way.
That's a cool answer.
That's a great answer.
No hesitation, Jay.
No.
You knew that one. Somebody's asked that one before, like, apparently.
I've always felt like I was an upright bass.
Yeah.
I just didn't know where I could disclose this information. Now I've found my home.
Okay.
This is great. Andy, we have Lindsay's question, which means you have to play a song. Do you want to play a song?
Yeah.
All right. We got a song for you.
A question thing here.
This is a little weird, 'cause Lindsay ain't here. Bandrew, don't worry, please don't fear. She's got great questions, she has a knack. Hey Jay, we could have tried to get Sharpie back.
I think he had to work tonight. He doesn't work at Taylor anymore. I mean,
I know. It's just a little inside.
He's drinking beers on shift or whatever. I don't know what he's making beers. I miss Sharpie too. Okay, Bandrew. This part of the show is when Lindsay asks a question and tries to stump the guest.
Okay.
Sometimes she does it, sometimes she doesn't. But let's see how this one works. So she sent me a text. Bandrew,
Okay.
what would you rather do? Perform in a circus or an aquatic dance group?
Oh, that's obvious. Perform in a circus.
Yeah, why?
Because if you're performing in an aquatic dance group, your fingers and your toes are going to get all pruny, and it's going to be disgusting. You're going to walk weird. It's going to be terrible. So obviously it's going to be circus, and then you get to travel around to different cities. You get to hang out with all the riffraff, all the weirdos. They're the interesting people. So circus, 100%. That doesn't be better.
All right, Lindsay, you did not stump him. Hold on. Let me get this. You didn't stump him. He had a wonderful answer. Okay, there we go.
Wrinkly toes and fingers. That's the answer.
All right. So my favorite part of the show is 2 minutes of sports. Here we go with my clip.
2 minutes of sports, 2 minutes for Jay. We talk racing cars, baseball stars, screaming fans hanging out in bars. The greatest of all time, players in their prime. In the meantime, I'm running out of rhymes for 2 minutes of sports.
That was such a good one. See, Bandrew, truly, we do these segments to hear Andy's songs.
Yeah, I love hearing them. It's better hearing them while I'm in the studio here, because I've just listened to them from the audience. This is 10 times better.
Yeah. It's like, or you're part of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, 2 minutes of sports. So I often, every single time we have a guest on the show, I send a text, or I call the guest and I say, "What's your favorite baseball team?" I start with baseball, right? Because it makes sense. Because I'm gonna wear a hat for the guest. And Bandrew said, And I was sensing, Andy, this Bob Taylor thing coming out, right? Yeah. Like, I don't want to surf because of the whole getting wet thing, or sports. So I don't know if you knew this, Bandrew, but Bob Taylor's cousin is Phil Jackson. You know who Phil Jackson is?
The name sounds familiar as soon as you say.
I love it. See, it's like I love this. Okay, so Phil Jackson, he was he's now a retired NBA coach. He's a Hall of Famer. He used to play in the NBA, and then he coached a couple of really good teams. One of them being the Chicago Bulls in the 90s.
Okay.
Won all the championships with this guy who's arguably the greatest player of all time,
Jordan Michaels, right? Jordan Michaels.
George Michael. Yep. Yep. And then he moved on and he went to the Lakers. Anyway, so Bob doesn't care about sports either. So I have a good time when people don't care about sports. But you said, I don't really care about baseball, nor do I watch baseball, but I would probably say the Padres.
Yeah.
Why the Padres? Simply because they're good right now, or what?
Are they good? I have no idea. No, I grew up in San Diego.
That's it. So the Padres.
Yeah.
And where do you live now?
That's Area 51.
Area 51. Okay, so why did you move from San Diego? I mean, Area 51.
Well,
aliens?
Just relocated due to parents relocating, and then they got a job at Area 51. So that's where I ended up. They said, "Hey, do you want to go to Area 51?" I said, "Sure." And then they responded with, "Well, good, because had you said no, we would have fired you and found somebody to replace you." And that's a serious story. They actually did say that to me at my job when they asked me if I wanted to move.
That's so good. All right. Area 51. That's fantastic. Yeah. All right. Go San Diego Padres.
Yes.
There we go. We're happy about the Padres being good, and that's 2 minutes of sports. It is now time for this week's trivia question. As you guys know, the prize for tonight is a Taylor Sense smart battery box. Okay? If you don't know what a Taylor Sense Smart Battery Box is. I'm not going to play the clip right now, but you guys, you Taylor fans out there, you know what I'm talking about. It's really good. All right. It is a smart battery box. Smart battery box. Taylor Sense. Should I play the clip, Andy? Fine. I'll play the clip. Ladies and gentlemen, Taylor Sense Smart Battery Box. Hunter really thought we weren't going to bring up humidity. That was my way of doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, smart battery box. Okay, so here's how it works. If you get the question right in the feed, the first person to answer the question in the feed, we will put your name on the screen here, and we will send you a Taylor Sense Smart Battery Box. If you win, send us an email to primetime@taylorguitars.com. That is primetime@taylorguitars.com, and we'll get you sorted away with your prize. All right, who's ready for trivia? Tonight's question is, Bob and Kurt founded the company in 1974. Who was the number one employee? Who was employee number one?
Most days it don't matter how much useless stuff you know. Here on the Primetime part of the show is trivia. You might just win a prize. Trivia is always a surprise. Trivia.
You're right. We'll go with the last name. That's fine. Hunter, you're right. I had to double check over here. Hunter, back to back. He did this before too. Congratulations, Hunter.
We might have to put him in the Hall of Fame, you know.
We might have to put him in the Hall of Fame, which means he's not allowed to answer questions anymore. Huh?
That's right.
That is right. Tim Laurence was his name. Anyway, wonderful. We got it. Good job, Hunter. Hit us up. I know this one. Look at Tobias. Man, Tobias, Mr. Paul Tobias. By the way, there's a Cubs game on, Paul, and they're playing the Padres, and they're, may or may not win or lose. So we'll figure this out. Bandrew, it has been so great having you on the show. Thank you so much. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a week off. We're taking a break, so 2 weeks without Lindsay. That's a bummer for you guys. But Andy, as always, from the Northwoods, it's great to see you. Bandrew, it's been so fantastic, man. We need to have you back on, especially when you do the small diaphragm demos so maybe a year from now. Oh man, we have to do the show for another year.
Absolutely. You got to keep going for another 5 or 10.
I know, to catch up to you, right?
Yeah, you're stuck. You're stuck doing this. You started it, and then you didn't realize it was an obligation for life.
It is an obligation for life.
It is.
And Bob hasn't fired me yet. So, he won't fire me. He loves the show. So there we go.
And even if he did, you would still have to continue to do it. It'd be a very awkward show.
It would be. Yeah. Anyway, love you guys. Thank you guys for watching every single Tuesday night. Check out Podcastage. It is such a wonderful YouTube channel. Go smash the like button below. Make sure you subscribe, all of that stuff. Make sure you subscribe to Bandrew's channel too. I'm telling you, it is so great. Mom, I'll show you how to subscribe later. We got this. Andy, take it away.
What was it? What was it? It was prime time. It was prime time. What the heck was it? What was that? Well, that was prime time. Episode 47. Bandrew Scott was our guest. Bandrew geeked out on microphones. He put 5 to the test. Last year he got a 67, but he loves the 87 the best. 300 in his collection, 57 is best bang for the buck. Yeah, he might have a little problem. One more will never be enough. Things you learn on prime time. On a Tuesday. Not next Tuesday. No. The Tuesday after that. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Bandrew. Woo!
Thank you.
Banjo note. Have a good one, guys. We love to see you next time.